crime, drugs, and vandalism are just three of the things the abandoned Old Mercy Hospital is attracting to this downtown Nampa neighborhood.
It's full of boarded up windows, graffiti, and broken glass. The building that housed the former Mercy Hospital hasn't been used for anything in more than a decade.
The old Mercy Hospital building is almost 100 years old. Once covered in green lawns and rose gardens, now just decorated with broken glass and boarded up windows.
From what I've been told by the police aren't even allowed in it because it's so dangerous. But these kids are breaking in there at night with flashlights. You know, somebody's gonna get hurt.
To go surfing in the ocean on his own path, never following motions. The one that's outside, I'm in love with.
A lot of history here. I'd hate to see it torn down, but I'd rather see it torn down than keep putting up with the bad element that's always over here.
Firefighters, police everywhere. The building is in flames. Front of the building, the whole entire wing is just completely gone right now. Yeah, this is insane. In honor of Halloween, I am going to tell you one of the spookiest stories that I know. The story is entirely about a building. This building right here, her name is the Old Mercy Hospital. It's kind of a weird name, I know, but it's her name. Now this building actually turns 100 years old this year, or at least it would have, if it weren't for the incident. Now before I can get into the incident or even how this building came into my life, I need to tell you all about the history of this building. The building obviously is much older than me and has a very rich history. And to tell you about the history, I'm going to take you to my hometown and where this building actually resides. Or it used to reside. I'm gonna take you to my hometown of Nampa, Idaho. Let's go. What's up guys, and welcome to Nampa. And Nampa is actually my hometown, and as some of you know, I live in Salt Lake City now. So to make this video, I've actually had to jump between Salt Lake City and Nampa quite a few times. But anyway, welcome to Nampa. Let me show you around. Okay, but I am loving these fall leaves. I mean, look at this. We are in peak fall season right now. It is just absolutely beautiful here. But let me tell you about this place. Let me tell you a little bit about Nampa. Okay, so Nampa, my hometown of Nampa, was founded in 1891. That's when Nampa became a town. Currently has about 90,000 people living here. So it's not a huge town, it's not a small town. It's kind of smaller though, but it's my hometown. Modern Nampa, which is what I grew up in, has some pretty cool places here. It has one of my favorite coffee shops. It's a coffee shop that the building used to be an old garage, like an auto garage. They turned it into a coffee place. Just a lot of memories in this town. It's where I grew up. But this town, it also has a little bit of a dark, creepy past. Check this out right here. Nampa even has a little train station. It's just a museum now, but back in the day, this train station is what connected Nampa to the rest of the country. You got some historical facts right there. Over here, they have some trains. Yeah, they got some old trains on display. So Nampa actually has a little bit of a creepy past. It's not really dark and creepy, it just sounds creepy. It's actually really good. And it involves this group of nuns. This group of nuns called the Sisters of Mercy. I'll put a couple of their pictures up right here. And you see, it kind of looks creepy, but it's not. It's actually a really cool organization. Okay, so it's starting to rain a little bit. As you can see, it's all wet. But the Sisters of Mercy is actually a really cool organization. But the Sisters of Mercy was founded in 1831 in Dublin, Ireland. Yeah, Dublin, Ireland. I have little notes and a little notebook because there's a lot of history here. And it's this organization of nuns who have dedicated their entire lives to building schools and churches and hospitals and places that help people. They've dedicated their lives to helping other people, which is what I think that's pretty cool. Even today, it's a very small group. In 2003, they only had 11,000 members across the entire world. They're a small group, but they're a very commendable group. And that's actually how that group of nuns connects to Nampa, is because they actually are the ones who built that Old Mercy Hospital that used to be abandoned, then burned down. They are the ones who built it. In 1917, 100 years ago from this year, exactly 1 century ago, They teamed up with the city of Nampa to start a fundraiser to build this hospital. And obviously it was a very successful fundraiser because the building was built the following year in 1918. And over the next half of that century, nuns continued to work with the city of Nampa to hire doctors and other people to work at the hospital. It became a very big part of the community. However, in 1967, the city of Nampa grew too large for the hospital to be able to accommodate for. The city needed a bigger hospital, so they built a bigger hospital. And that hospital, that whole facility, that whole building went abandoned until the 1990s. It was abandoned for quite some time. But then in the 90s, the building was bought and turned into a retirement home for the elderly. And it wound up being a retirement home for about a decade. There was rumors of abuse happening at the retirement home. Plus, there was a huge asbestos problem. In really old paint, as it ages and as it peels, it creates asbestos problems, which is very bad for your lungs and you can die from. And then nobody else really bought it and did anything with it. It just sat and went abandoned. In the modern world, urban exploring became a thing where kids will go into abandoned buildings with cameras and take pictures. And along with that, a lot of people would go in and graffiti and destroy the building. I mean, personally, I would even go in myself and take pictures and video the building, the inside of this creepy old building. All the way up until early 2016 when the building actually burned down. The building caught on fire and I was there to film it and it burned down. The police investigating the fire, they know it was a historic building, they wanted to know why it burned down. They determined that it was a homeless man who was squatting. Squatting is when homeless people will live in abandoned buildings. And it was a cold night, so they think that he was trying to start a little fire of some kind and it got out of control and burned the building down. The rain out here is forecasted to get worse, so I'm gonna get out of Nampa. I'm gonna head back to Salt Lake. But yeah, that was the history of this building. Next, I'm gonna get into why I'm involved with this building. Because for the past couple years of this building's existence, I've been there a lot. I would actually go into the building and film when it was abandoned. Yeah, I'll get to that when I'm back in Salt Lake City.
I enjoy the sense of adrenaline and the slight sense of deviance as well. Just like, you know, you're kind of not supposed to be here, but you are here anyways. You're not supposed to see all this, but you are anyways, and it's just really cool to be one of those people. It's like, I'm up here, I'm doing this.
That is Caden Barnett. He's a photographer friend of mine from Nampa. He specializes in deviance and trespassing because he's an urban explorer. But we'll get to him in a little bit. First, I need to explain to you what urban exploring is. Humans have always been explorers. It's the reason that we originally left Africa all those thousands of millions of years ago. It's the reason that we've spread out to the ends of the earth. We all have a desire to know the unknown. But in the modern world, there isn't really anything left to explore that's new. The highest peaks of mountains have all been climbed. Every little tiny island everywhere has been mapped. I mean, the entire world has been documented. It's all right here on my phone even. Humans have explored the entire world. We're even starting to make our way deeper into space, but that is an expensive and slow process. Young adults of the 21st century were kind of stuck in a little bit of a limbo. What do you do if you're born too late to explore the world, but also too early to explore the cosmos? You're stuck in an exploration limbo. So you explore the only thing available to you, which would be the 12,000 years worth of infrastructure and human development. Urban exploring in its simplest definition is following the desire, the human desire, to know the unknown. Abandoned infrastructure is the modern frontier. Urban explorers, we are artists. We're videographers and photographers who go into abandoned buildings. And we do all this because we want to capture a world that not that many people get to see. So about 2 years ago in 2015, I discovered what urban exploring is. I discovered that there's actually an entire online community of people who just go into abandoned buildings just to take pictures. And I thought that that was so interesting, and of course I wanted to try it. I knew where this abandoned school was, so I went and took pictures of it. The school was so decayed that there really wasn't much of anything left, but it was such a fascinating experience experience and I wanted to keep exploring. A couple days after exploring the abandoned school, a friend of mine tipped me off to this abandoned hospital that's right in downtown Nampa. After a few Google searches, I found out that its name was the Old Mercy Hospital. All of my friends either did not want to go into the building or were just too busy to go with me into the building. And I have an extremely obsessive personality, so I just did it. I just went. I grabbed my cameras and a flashlight and I went into this building alone. I went up and down the hallways into as many rooms as I could. I was just recording everything. And I'm not gonna lie, I was terrified because the second you walk through those doors into this abandoned hospital, it's like you crossed the threshold to an entirely new world. It was like I entered the upside down in Stranger Things. Even though I was absolutely terrified that first time going, something about the building, I just kept going back and filming more of the building. Of course, most of the times that I went alone, which of course isn't recommended, but there was just something about that building that I really enjoyed. Something about being in this other world I loved. And me constantly going into this building and constantly exploring this building. It went on for a few months. Again, it was just that obsessive personality that I loved this building. But in 2016, on New Year's Day, the very first day of the new year, that night I was lucky enough to be there when this building burned down. I had my camera and I just started filming.
Hello everyone, my name is McBee, and right now I am right out front of the Nampa Hospital fire. You can see there are firefighters, police everywhere. The building is in flames. This is insane.
After the night of that 3 a.m. fire, the Old Mercy Hospital building was too unstructurally sound for them to just leave standing. The city stepped in and forced the property owner to demolish it. It was demolished in 2016, making my footage of the inside of this building some of the only footage that will ever exist. See, that's part of the reason that urban explorers document so much, because one day these buildings aren't gonna be here, and there's a rich history in these buildings that we want to preserve. That's why we do it. Along with myself, I know one other person who has any footage of the inside of this building. So I went to the College of Idaho, which is near Nampa, so that I could meet up with Caden, because I wanted to know his perspective of what he thought of this building. I wanted to know his experiences of this building.
Yeah, so I'm Caden Burnett. I'm an amateur photographer and traveler and urban explorer.
What was it like? What was it like that first time going in, when you first, walked through the door or the window or however you got in? What was it like?
It was like crossing a threshold almost. It's like you're out here in the safety of society and then you go into this really creepy place and that you're like not supposed to be in. And it's just like, wow, this whole building is here there's no one here. It's all for us to explore. So it was really cool.
What's your thoughts on graffiti and the people who go in and will make their mark on the building itself?
I personally don't necessarily agree with graffiti all the time. If it's something that is, told, like, it's gonna be torn down, something like that, I think it's fine. But I think when it's still someone's property and they own it, you should do your best to respect it. And I try to go by the rule of take nothing but photos and leave nothing but footprints.
What was it like how did you feel when you saw that this building burned down? Well, first I guess we'll say how were you connected to this building? How did you care? Did you care about the building?
I did, because it's one of those things that people just drive by it, pass by it all. It's just there. It's an eyesore. Not many people pay much attention to it. But for me, I had been in there multiple times. I had gone through it. I had explored it and just, had good times in it, with friends and whatnot. So yeah, I cared and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's kind of a bummer. I went there with some friends and it was just really creepy. Had a creepy ambiance to the place and the atmosphere was just really intriguing.
After my interview with Caden, I actually went back to downtown Nampa, because even though it is 2017 and the building has been completely demolished, nothing has been done with the property yet, meaning there are still remnants of the building left behind. So technically, the building isn't completely gone yet. I mean, it is, but it's not. You'll see. Okay, so we just arrived to the property that used to be where the old Mercy Hospital building was. Since the building has been demolished, there is not a whole lot left, but there's still a few things. Still a few things that I get to show you. So this pathway right here, where I'm walking, is the last bit of sidewalk that is left here. As you can see right here, this is where the front door to get into the Mercy Hospital used to be. But as you can see, this is the end of the line right here. All that's left is the foundation. And looking from above, you can actually see the cross shape that used to make the old Mercy Hospital building. You can see that shape left in the foundation. Now, of course, the day that I'm actually able to make it out here to film is one of the rainiest days. But you know, this rain, it fits the creepy vibe. So those right there, these are the chains that used to lock up the building. These chains used to be on the front door. I know this because I've seen them there. These things used to block me from getting into the building, but they're left behind. So to paint you a scene of everything that we have left on this property, we have a large square lot of land. There's a bit of a border brick fence that is left behind. Parts of it are absolutely completely destroyed, but some parts of it still are standing. We have one parking lot, and the majority of this parking lot was dedicated to the doctors and staff that worked at the hospital. There's an old garage that was out back, and I'm guessing this garage was used for like an ambulance or an emergency vehicles of some kind, and that's the only real structure that is left behind. Now we also have a few smaller things like these benches. There are a couple benches and other things out front. As you can see, there is a bench right there. Behind me there is a flagpole. If you were to walk around in the foundation like where I am now, you can find some bricks and other piping and pieces, things that were part of the structure. The majority of the old Mercy Hospital is destroyed, it's demolished, it's gone, but it is still very obvious that that building used to be on this property. I mean, even look right here, this used to be a fountain. This right here used to be a little fountain, and right in there used to be a little waterfall that flowed into the fountain. It's so interesting. So there's this fountain that's covered in this overgrown bush, and there's bees just all over it. I don't know, I think that's kind of fascinating. And the reason that there are actually so many bees around this property is because this sign right here, the top half, this top section of this sign, has a massive beehive in it. I actually noticed the beehive about 2 years ago when I was here to explore the old Mercy Hospital. So I'm glad out of all of the things that still remain, I'm glad that this sign still remains. So even though the old Mercy Hospital building has been completely destroyed, it's been demolished, it's been removed, everything around it still remains. So if you're like me and this building has a special place in your heart, and the history of this building has a special place in your heart, then you're able to still come and pay your respects to the history and to the building, because this property, this land, this empty lot has 100 years of very rich history. And to me, as a kid that grew up with this building already abandoned, the history and building itself actually still means a lot to me. And to the older generations who grew up with this building being a functioning hospital, a huge part of the community, a lot of people worked here, a lot of people were born here. The old Mercy Hospital has a lot of history, and I personally don't believe that that history should be forgotten just yet. So that is it. That is the story of my first ever experience with urban exploring. It's a little bit more dramatic than most. Now, this story also has a lot of layers. A lot of layers that I did not have time to get to, since Halloween is rapidly approaching. If you ever find me in person, I'll tell you some real ghost stories. Some real creepy shit that went down in this building. So, happy Halloween, everyone. Stay spooky or something, I don't know. Just happy Halloween, everyone. Alright, bye. I don't know.
If you will be my favorite song, my little melody. If we could be a symphony, then we would be a perfect harmony.